We're talking today with Emile Bertrand of Petoskey, Michigan, and I guess it's more like Emile Bertrand if you're American.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, okay. And he was born in France, and he actually served in the French Resistance as well as the French Army during
Yes.
the Second World War. All right. But to begin with, let's go back to the beginning. Where and when were you born?
Well, I was born in Brittany. At that time, Brittany had the counties, and the Côte du Nord was the place I was born in 26th of October 1922.
Okay. And did you grow up in that area?
No, I did not, no. I grew up in a town by the name of Laval,
Okay.
in de la Mayenne.
Okay.
And when I was very small.
Okay.
And I stayed there until my mother died. She was 36 years old. She had pneumonia.
Okay.
They
And
didn't know how to treat that at the time.
and what year was that?
Oh, that was before the war. I was 14 years old.
Okay, so about 1926,
Yes.
36 or thereabouts.
36, yeah,
Okay.
something
All
like
right.
that.
Yeah, and Laval is kind of a little bit north of the Loire Valley and southwest
Yeah,
of Paris.
quite a bit north.
Yeah.
That's actually east of Brittany,
Yes.
east of Rennes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your family doing for a living when you were a kid?
My father worked for the French Railroad, you know, and most of my uncle worked for also the French Railroad at that time, you know.
All right.
And there was a pretty good job, I guess.
Okay. And then, what sort of education did you have?
Well, in Laval, I went to the lycée,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not doing very good. So my father decided to send me to Saint-Brieuc in a boarding school.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the name of the school was Curie. And I graduated there in 1939,
Mm-hmm.
just before the war started,
Right.
in the summer of for the war. And I was going to go to be an engineer. And the war started in October 1939.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't go for that reason. I went to work.
Okay.
And I was working in Rennes, at the Arsenal de Rennes, in the summer of 1940. And I was in the afternoon shift. I was on my bicycle right in front of the railroad station. All of a sudden, I was waiting for the lights. All of a sudden, we heard big, huge explosions. Big, fantastic. A few minutes later, a group of 5 or 6 or 7 Dornier
Bombers.
German bombers were shaving the roof of the station. And in Rennes, they had a big, huge amount of tracks. And on the tracks were ammunition trains and refugees. And the whole thing blew up. There was over 1,000 people died there that particular morning. And they were so close, I saw the crew, the pilots and everybody else, we could see them very well.
Mm-hmm.
And next to me there was a British soldier. He was shooting with his rifle into the gun, into the planes, with no success, I guess.
Okay. Now, I want to back up and fill in a little bit more about your early life. Before the war started, in the 1930s, that's the era of the Great Depression.
1939.
Yeah, but before that, that's the era of the Great Depression.
Yes.
You had the Popular Front government in France in the middle
Yes.
1930s, the Spanish
Yes.
Civil War. Did you pay very much attention to
No,
the
I didn't.
events? Okay.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, just after the German came in, I changed my mind many times.
All right.
Many times.
Now, but between the time, I mean, the Germans attacked Poland in 1939,
39.
in September, and then the Allies declare war after
Yes,
that.
yes.
All right. And Did life change at all for you before the Germans came, or did you just keep doing?
In a way, a little bit, because instead of going to school,
Right.
I went to work.
You took a job. That's
I
right.
I went to work at Rain at the Arsenal
Mm-hmm.
as a toolmaker,
Mm-hmm.
young toolmaker.
Okay.
And when the Germans were very close to come to the town,
Mm-hmm.
I took my bicycle and two of the guys, we went to Nantes. And
Did you go all the way from Rennes to Nantes on a bicycle?
on bicycle, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And how long did
With
that take?
3-4 days at
Okay.
least. And we had refugees all over the place.
Mhm.
People with wheelbarrow carrying their suitcases, you know. And some people said the Germans were coming with their plane. I never seen it.
Okay.
I never did see that.
All right. Now,
But when we left, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. There was daylight, you know. And we came by noon to a huge British depot. And the British were gone. They went back to England, you know.
Mhm.
But all the doors were open. So any French people can go there and pick up what they want. And I picked up something to eat. And I picked up not a bottle, what's the name of that? Of rum,
Okay.
Jamaican rum,
Mhm.
you know. And I don't like rum anymore. I was in bad shape that time. But by the time we went to Nantes, the German half-tracks, well, they were coming.
mm-hmm.
So I said, well, it's no use to go any further. I went back home in Morlaix, which is close to Brest.
All right. So is that where your father was living?
No, my father was working for the railroad in Laval.
Okay. He was in Laval. So who was in Morlaix then? Who did you go to live with?
There was an uncle and an aunt,
Okay.
and I was very close to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 2 boys and an older girl, which is still living right now in France.
All right. Now, when you were living in Rennes and you were working in the armory, what kind of living conditions did you have? Were you in an apartment or a
I
dormitory?
was renting a room, yeah,
Okay.
and we had lots of food. We were not hungry at all at that time until the German came,
Right.
you know.
Okay. But now you've made it back. You've gone back to Morlaix. You've rejoined your family. And the Germans are there, but you're not working anymore.
No, I'm not working.
So what do you do then?
Well, you know, France was divided, an occupied zone and a free zone, which was led by Vichy.
Right.
And my friend and I, we decided to see if we could go to the south of France and through Spain to Gibraltar.
Mm-hmm.
So we left Brittany and we went on the east side of France and we crossed a canal and a creek and we went all the way to Marseille, in the south of France.
All right. Now,
know-
how did you do this? Just on bicycles or
No,
walking?
by train.
Okay, you took
You know,
train.
my dad was working for the railroad.
Okay.
I was going free.
Okay.
I didn't pay a dime.
All right.
And
you,
my friend also the same way.
okay. And now, the area in Brittany and Morlaix, was that part of the occupied zone?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because that was important
Well,
militarily.
entirely. Brittany was entirely under
Right. Okay.
the German.
Now, did you have any problem moving from the occupied zone to
I had a problem to cross the line.
Mhm. So that was where you snuck across the canal, or?
Yes, I had a problem. The first time I crossed, it was heavily guarded by the German.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I crossed, it was not too bad. You know, we remove our pants and we walk in the water,
Mhm.
you know. And the second one was a canal, so we had a boat, which someone was helping us.
Mm-hmm.
So we went all the way to the border of Spain,
Right.
and I was going to go to the mountain, to the Pyrenees, when I met someone who came from the jails in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Don't go there." He says, "Franco is a friend of Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
No way you're going to spend a lot of times in jail."
Mhm.
So I didn't go, and my friend also. So from there we went to Marseille and to Corsica with the intention to go to Algeria or Tunisia
Mhm.
or Morocco to go to Gibraltar, but we didn't make it.
Okay. Now, but did you get to Corsica?
I went to Corsica for 3 months
Okay. And how did you get to Corsica?
by boat.
All right.
It was a
Yeah.
cargo ship.
Now, did you have any money?
We didn't have much money, no. And we work in Corsica making charcoal in the mountain.
Okay.
We had mules and it was a good time. But we were hungry,
Mm-hmm.
very hungry, and we not properly fed. And we were living in a former prison. And an old prison. And during the day we were going in the mountain the whole day and come back in the evening. And someone said, "I saw a place where they have a lot of potatoes." So we decided to go into that farm at night. And I remember someone came up with the idea of putting a string on our ankles and putting the potatoes to our zipper around our legs. And we came in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, hungry like hell. So immediately we cooked the potatoes, and they had a funny taste. They were kind of sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But the next morning, we were maybe 50, 60 guys there, sick like hell. Completely sick, throwing up, diarrhea, and everything else. They were potato seed,
Mm-hmm.
with DDT on it.
Oh.
We didn't know about it. For 2-3 days, we couldn't move. We were very sick. But finally, everything came out okay,
Mhm.
you know. One of the stories. Yeah.
All right. Now, as you were moving through France at that point, how did you find people to help you? Did you just walk up to people and talk to them, or?
Well, we didn't have much to lose, you know. So by talking to people, we could find something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like we did work on the roads, making new roads
Mm-hmm.
for the government in a free zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I passed the line 4 times, the demarcation line.
Mm-hmm.
The 3rd time, we had a hard time. Very difficult thing. So we went through Bordeaux, you know,
Mhm.
where Bordeaux is. At that time, a German general was killed. And they thought the underground was responsible for that. So when we went to the demarcation line, the Germans were on their toes, you know, with a double patrols and stuff like that. And no one could help us to go through. But we found one guy who told us how to do it. We were 2 guys, my best friend and I.
Mhm.
And we had, at 2 o'clock in the morning, we went through 2 big buildings where the Germans were sleeping there. And we walked for half an hour, and we were told we were going to reach a creek. And we did. And they told us, when you're in a creek, stay in the creek for 15 minutes going on the right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was a creek. At that time, you could hear the dogs barking. The Germans knew something was going on there. But we got out from the creek, and we found a paved road. And when we walk on the paved road, it was dark, but not that dark. You could see the trees and the shade like that. And I saw someone smoking. And all of a sudden in French he says, "What the hell are you doing here?" There was a soldier from the Vichy, Vichy group, and he couldn't believe we went through the line at that time, you know. And after that we took the train and we went on our way.
So the Vichy soldier wasn't interested in stopping you?
No, he was not. No,
Okay.
no. We couldn't believe we passed it.
All right. Now, that's getting us a little bit ahead in your story. So let's go back to the point when you're in Corsica. Now, was this still 1940 when you were in Corsica, or was this now 1941?
41.
41.
41.
Okay. And you said you stayed there about 3 months doing that?
About 3 months, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
A beautiful place.
yeah.
Beautiful.
And then how did you come to leave there?
Because we work.
Mm-hmm.
We work making charcoal.
Right. But then, at some point, though, but you only stayed for 3 months.
Yeah.
So why did you go from there?
Well, first of all, when we came to Corsica, we went to a town by the name of Bastia.
Mhm.
And then we took the train all the way to Porto Vecchio at the very south end of Corsica.
Mhm.
And in Porto Vecchio, we were hungry. You know, we didn't work.
Mhm.
We didn't have much money. And we were sitting in front of the church, and someone came in and says in French, "You look pretty sad." You know, we were sad and hungry. And we told him, we says, we look to find a job, and we would like to eat. Oh, he says, you came at the right time. We have a funeral this afternoon. And after the funeral, there's a big banquet. So we waited, and we went into the church. Only the men were going to the church. The women stay outside. And they all were like the Ku Klux Klan.
Mm-hmm. These black veils and hoods.
The whites, there was whites, all whites.
Okay.
Veil like that, you know. And we stayed with the man, and when we came out, we went to the house where the banquet was served. We got a fiesta, beautiful thing. And after, the next day, that's amazing, I can remember that. We met a farmer. His name was Rossi, I remember his name, Rossi. And we told him that we're looking for a job or we're looking for something to eat. He says they have a language of their own over there, you know, French and Italian or something like that.
Yeah.
And we went to his farm, and in his patois, in his language, he told his wife and his 2 daughters to prepare a meal in his language. We didn't know he was doing it. We had a good meal at the time. And I remember the name, Rossi.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
All right.
And after that, we couldn't go to Tunisia or Morocco or Algeria, so we came back to France at that time. And then I found a job at Laval.
Mm-hmm.
There was a place by the name of Richard Brothers, and they were manufacturing cameras for the aircraft, for the aircraft industry, for the German.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was on a lathe, very Swiss lathe, beautiful shop. And 8 o'clock in the morning, I was there. All of a sudden, from the front office, a girl came in rushing and said, trucks of German are landing the German in front of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't wait a second. I stopped my machine, I ran from the back, I picked up my bicycle, I jumped over the wall, and they never saw me again. They were searching for laborers for Germany,
Okay.
and they would, no question asked, they would put you in a freight train, and then you were locked in all the way to Germany and work for the Germans, you know.
Right.
But I didn't do that.
Okay.
The next night, I took the train at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I went back to Brittany, to Germany, to Morlaix.
Okay.
Yeah. And after that, that continued after that.
All right.
Yeah.
So-
But I was glad I did that because a lot of young guys like me went to Germany and never came back.
Yeah, because they were slave laborers.
Slave
and
labor,
they were not
exactly,
treated
yeah.
well or fed well.
Oh yes, yeah.
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 Okay. But basically, the French people they knew enough about how it works so that the girl
Oh yes,
would recognize it
we
and
knew
warn you.
that.
Now,
And the advantage, when I went back home, I decided to hide for a while.
Mhm.
And my next door neighbors in Morlaix, her brother had a farm,
Mhm.
about a half an hour away from my home, on bicycle. And so I spent 2 or 3 months there.
Mhm.
I never worked so hard in my life, that farm. That was a rough work. And the food wasn't very good. Too much greasy food. And I told the farmer one time, I said, I have enough of it. He said, I'm going to leave.
Mhm.
He says, you agree with me? And he says, before you leave, Morlaix, go see the Dr. Leduc, was his name. He was one of the chief of the FFI.
And explain what that was.
And
That's the.
what happened, I did not know that.
The FFI.
FFI.
What was that?
There was de Gaulle's party, de
Right.
Gaulle's
So the Free French of the
Free
Interior.
French, whatever.
The Interior, I think, was what they
Interior,
call it.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And anyway, I went to see the doctor, which I knew
Mhm.
because we used to play volleyball on the beach many times.
Mhm.
And what happened is, not far from my hometown was a town by the name of Carantec. I don't know if you know the name, Carantec.
Is it
It's
C-A-R?
right on a maybe half an hour by bicycle from my hometown.
Okay.
And there was a ship builder for the fishing industry. He used to make trawlers, maybe 35, 40 feet,
Mhm.
with a sail and a diesel engine.
Mhm.
And during the entire period of the war, he built 17 ships, which he went at night with a group of maybe 50, 60 guys like me to England.
Mhm.
And they did, on D-Day they were there, Anyway, the doctor told me that's a bad time right now because the Gestapo is there in the Carantec searching.
Mhm.
He said, you'll have to come back, but I didn't wait. So I left Morlaix and I went to Brest. And at Brest, I found someone who told me they are looking for lathe operator across the bay in a big, huge base. Languedoc was the name of the town, Languedoc. At one time, there was a big base. They had 250 planes there,
Mhm.
to give you an idea. Coming back from Libya
Mhm.
at the time with the other sand. And so I worked in the garage as the lathe operator there. And then that was the end of 1943. At that time I met my best friend, Fernand, and we went to the underground
Okay.
at that time, at the early 1943.
All right. Now, how long were you working in Brest?
For a couple of years, A year and a half,
Yeah,
maybe.
okay.
Year and a
Now,
half.
now, during that time, did the Germans ever come looking for more laborers?
No, not there.
Okay, so they were already doing something that was useful for the Germans?
Yes.
Okay,
And I changed my ID,
okay.
and I changed my clothes.
Hmm.
I was dressed in navy blue with a marine cap, just like they were using in the Merchant Marines,
Okay.
And I was never stopped crossing the bay.
Hmm.
Never stopped, because I stay on the side of the German.
Hmm.
Oh, I never spoke. I didn't
Right.
speak English. I speak German.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that was okay. I managed.
All right. And then while you were in Brest, where did you live or who did you live with?
A long way up was a little town, maybe of 1,000 people, maybe, close to the base,
Hmm.
and we were eating in a pension. Good place, but not much food. And we were living, we rented that room where I told you the bombs fell in. And I had a hard time there, very
Okay.
hard time.
Oh, I don't
I
think
can
you.
give you some ideas.
Okay. You mentioned, so you were that area was bombed while you were living there.
Many times,
Okay.
many times. And we were poorly trained in the underground. And we were poorly armed, we didn't have any arms. And my first assignment was I was told what to do. We were a group of 3 people, And at that time, the Germans were picking up all the cows they could get, all the meat they could get for their army.
Hmm.
People were not eating meat at all in that part of France.
Hmm.
So the idea was to go to the farm, collaborate with farms, and they gave me a machete, that's all. And I had a revolver, which was not a revolver, there was a lighter. But the other 2 guys had regular revolvers, regular ammos.
Yeah.
And I stole a stocking of an old lady there, and I put an opening for my eyes, and I put them on my head, all black.
Hmm.
And we left maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And while we were walking, we could hear someone coming, the Germans. There was a patrol. And so there was a ditches on both sides. So we hit the right side ditch, and we stayed low there. They came 4 or 5 feet away from us, 2 guys smoking and talking in German. And when they were gone, we went back on the road, and we went on the farm. And the 2 other guys went in front of the farm and the back of the farm with a flashlight, and they had instruction to the farmer. And for me, I had to go to the barn, and most of the cows during the night, they sleep not on the floor, they sleep up, they are way up and like that. And the idea was for me to cut the tendon on the back of the cow. They have a tendon there.
Mhm.
And when the tendon is cut, the cow collapses, and they are ready to be butchered,
Mhm.
Anyway, I was trembling. I was kind of scared, I never did something like that.
Mhm.
I was 17, 18 years old. And finally I decided I have to do it. And I did that on 2 cows. And the instruction was to the farmer, which was a collaborator, to send the 2 cows to the butcher. And the butcher would sell the meat to the population. Like that, at least for a few days, they would have some meat to eat.
Mhm.
And we went to another farm like that, and we went back home, and that was it. And the German, I don't think they knew what happened,
Mm-hmm.
because the farmers were afraid of us, you know, for some reason. The second mission we had, have you ever heard about the Todd Army? In Germany, the Todd Army.
Oh, the
They were the builders
right,
of the broadcasters and so on like that.
right.
Next to the town of Lorient, they had a huge depot. Huge depot. Thousands of barrels of gasoline and diesel. And we were about 50 guys that night. And we could see it was not too dark for some reason. And they gave us some picks, you know the picks?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was to punch holes in all those barrels, how many as we could. Stupid thing, which we did. The gasoline and diesel were running maybe 2 inches on the ground, all over the place. We were soaked with the gasoline. And imagine if a spark would have started a fire, we had not a chance at all. But we accomplished quite a bit there, and we flew the coop after that.
Okay.
And the German were there after that investigating, but they never found out who were there, you know.
Okay. So the Germans didn't hear you while you were.
There was a patrol, but we waited maybe half an hour before they were far away.
Okay.
So maybe they heard us, but I don't think so.
Okay. But now was this fuel dump? Was this inside of a fortified place or just sitting in the open?
No, they were sitting, but there was a wall,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a big gate, which someone opened the gate for some reason.
Okay.
And we went through the gate, and after that we were soaking in that mixture of gasoline and diesel oil.
Okay.
What a mess.
All right. So the English term for this German group was called the Todt organization, because Fritz Todt was.
Todd, yeah.
Yeah, you pronounced it Todd.
Yeah.
But, and basically they were in charge of all kinds of military construction for the Germans.
They built the Atlantic Wall.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
they were the one.
Okay. All right.
And
Now, to go back again a little bit, you said at the point when you decided to join the resistance, did you just go to Karantak or back to the doctor, or what? How did you join the resistance?
just like that. We had no. We didn't sign anything.
Who did you go to, or where did you go for that?
We stayed in town.
Okay.
We stayed there. We worked during the day, and if we did something, it was at night most of the time.
Okay.
Like we were involved in putting some planks on the road with nails on it
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that the tires of the German truck would blow out, you know.
But I mean, did you know who was in the resistance?
Oh,
so
yes.
who to talk
Oh,
to?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I remember my officer, his name was Belbeok. He was a major in the army. He was in charge of us.
Mhm.
We were about altogether maybe 500 altogether,
Mhm.
you know, the peninsula there,
Okay.
you know.
And
And we did a lot of work there, a lot of stupid things.
now, was there a danger of having collaborators betray you? Did you have to be
We
afraid?
had problems, we had some problems, you know, oh yes. One time, among us there was a guy from Alsace who spoke fluently German.
Mhm.
And he went to the officer in charge of that location, telling there's a French resistance in that wood here. And there was a group there, maybe 10 guys. My best friend was there. And but they didn't have any weapons at all. So they were arrested and they went to another town which was the name of Crozon. Crozon was a town, which is still there, you know. And I got a mission. I got to tell you something amazing. I was lucky, very lucky. I was told to carry on my bicycle 4 revolvers with ammunition in it. Yeah, ammunition or some cartridges. And on my bicycle, I had a basket in front of the bicycle. And so I put the 4 revolvers there, and I put some newspapers and some carrots and stuff like that on the top of it, you know, to hide it. And I had 2 ways to go to the town. I could take the paved road or the dirt road. Paved road was being utilized by the German a lot, so I chose to pick up the other road, you know. The time was the same, maybe almost an hour, you know. And it was a hot day, August 43. So I was paddling on a road, there was nobody there. And the road was turning. All of a sudden, I faced 500, 600, 700 German on maneuvers. They removed the helmet, and they were hiking and singing at the same time. With my 4 revolvers there, I had to went to the entire group like that. And not a single one stopped me. Imagine how lucky can you be? If I would have been stopped, I wouldn't be here today,
Right.
that's for sure. And finally I went to that town and I gave the 4 revolvers to someone. And they were planning to attack the German for liberating those 10 guys, you know. But for some reason there was an officer, which it was a German from the Cameroon in
Africa.
And he helped us to free those guys. Imagine in Languedoc we had in a restaurant all those guys from the underground and one officer, he was a captain I think, or colonel, a major, he was a major. And he was the only German there. And we promised him, he knew the war was going to be lost for Germany. He knew that. He said, the only thing I want you to do is to try to find me after the war, which they did. He was in Canada, prisoner of war, and he was liberated thanks to us, to give you an idea.
Wow.
Yeah, that was quite a story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had been from like a German family that had gone to Cameroon
Yes.
as part of their colonial
That's right,
regime.
he was
and
born
then-
in Cameroon.
Born in Cameroon and then came
Oh
back.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
something.
It was good.
All right.
And anyway, to give you some idea, by that time, there was 1944 after D-Day. The Pattern Army, the Third Army,
Right.
was close to Brest, you know. They say, don't quote me, but there was over 100,000 German there. But I don't know for sure. And I was the bay across base is huge, like I said before, and a lot of cargos, German cargos, were going close to the float, to the shore, for camouflage, I guess, you know. And I saw one time 17 ships sunk. I saw one close to me. The bow of the ship was sinking, and the rear of the ship they were still anti-aircraft gun shooting at the planes. And I saw the plane, the cargo ship going completely down. I didn't see anything coming out of it. So that was something to see. Anyway, one day I was on my bicycle and I was going from Languedoc to a town by the name of Le Fret. And the town was very close to the ocean, and like 100 feet maybe. But I saw a bunch of diver plane from this country here diving, but I couldn't see what happened. There was a cargo ship there, and they were diving to try to sink the ship. So I was on my bicycle, and I felt unease. And I crossed a guy, an old guy, he had a cane, he was walking on a road, and I decided I better stop. I stopped my bicycle on the left side of the road, and I went into the ditch. The ditch was maybe a couple of feet deep, and I lay down there. And I could see the planes launching their bomb, 2 bombs, over me. But the last plane triggered the bomb too quick, and I saw those 2 bombs coming at me, completely at me. And so I was completely on my belly at that time. The 2 bombs fell on the other ditch, on the road. And I saw tons of dirt going into the air, falling on me. And the only thing I remember, I was scared about being hit by a stone, a big stone, which I did not. And I knew it was the last plane. I didn't pay attention if the ship was sunk or not. So I get up from where I was and shook the dirt from me and from the best bicycle, and I saw the old man still walking with his cane. And I jumped on my bicycle. I didn't go very far. I was trembling. I was really shook, at that time. But that was the way of life, I guess,
Now, when the D-Day invasion took place,
Yes.
Part of the plan was to have the French resistance across the country rise up.
Which it did.
And so what did your unit do in connection with D-Day?
We were far from D-Day.
Yes.
We were close to Brest.
Right.
And most of the time, we did some things like I said, I told you, But at one time, when the Pattern Army was close by, they gave to the civilians of the peninsula, if you want to leave, you can leave, we'll let you go, So what we did, we did not bring any weapons of any kind. We went with the people there. And we were out of the peninsula for 2 or 3 days of march. A lot of farmers were there with their horses and carriage. Anyway, I saw the first American there after we reached the location. And so we organized ourselves, the officers, and we were a group of about 500, roughly. And we got armed at that time. I got a Sten submachine gun and a revolver. They gave me a revolver and blankets and everything. And we stopped. We were the only unit with the Americans, because we were from that location. We knew the location of a lot of the cannons and stuff like that. And we had a hard time. Before we start moving, we came to in front of a town by the name of Telgruck. That was the name of the town. And during the day, the German left the town, going to the sea, going to the ocean. and we had the American not receive any news of the moving, and they thought the town was occupied. But at that time, a part of my unit and a group of Americans were in the town, and there was a friendly fire. They came with bombers, B-26 bombers, stuff like that, and they shaved the town. We lost 50 guys, and the American lost over 100 that day. So we were maybe a mile from the town. Beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky. We had those red, what's the name of that? Red carpet to say we are friendly,
Right.
but they didn't see it. And they shaved the town completely. But finally they reached the headquarters and it was okay. So we went to the town. It was not very pretty to see.
Right.
There was bodies all over the place, you know. And all of a sudden someone says, I found some rum. And there was a big barrel of rum, and from Jamaica. So we were drunk that night. If the German would have attacked us, we were no way in good shape for that, you know. And I can't stand rum since that time. I was sick with it, very sick.
Well, wasn't
But-
that your second episode with rum?
The what? The second time?
Yeah.
Second time, yeah. First time it was in 1940.
Right.
Yeah, and we went with the Americans, and I remember we were very close to the ocean, on the left side, and where we were, the German built a trench, zigzag trench, maybe 2 feet deep, 2 feet wide maybe, and at the bottom of the trench was sand. So from the coast, the Germans saw us, you know. We were 500 people, just go to bed. And they start shooting the 88 all over the place. So immediately we went to the ditch, to the zigzag
Right.
ditch. And I was there on my belly, and there was a guy 3-4 feet away from me. And all of a sudden, a shrapnel fell in between my head and the feet of the other guys in the sand. I didn't see the shrapnel, but it was hot like hell, very hot, for a few minutes. It was a close one, but I was in between, you know. And after that, we start moving in a second line. There was a first line, and we came in a second line. First time for me to fight like a regular unit.
Yeah.
And there was a valley, big valley. So in second line, it's pretty good. And I found the farmers were gone. And I found a shelter in that farm, made of railroad ties, well made, and I had 3 other guys with me, a machine gunner and the 2 helpers. They slept that night in a barn, but I slept in the shelter. I was sound asleep. You could hear the shells. They were shooting, you know, a shell, but not close to us. All of a sudden, hell broke loose. The German had the 20 millimeter guns, 4 guns.
Yep.
They had maybe 2 dozen of it across the valley, and they were shooting at us over the first line. I was sound asleep. I wasn't aware of what was going on until finally I heard, we're hit. in a barn.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I took my gun with me and I rushed into the barn. And next to me was a truck. There was a truck full of food. It was our truck for eating, you know, in flames, completely in flames, you know. You could see like you see now today, in daylight. So I went to the barn, and I helped one guy. He had a shrapnel in his leg, and the other one took the other guy with me.
Mm-hmm.
And very close to us was a MASH unit, American MASH.
Mm-hmm.
And almost daylight, the Germans saw us, I'm sure. We walked on the road there, and we went into the MASH unit. And I was humbled to see how they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
They were in a square of a farm,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a big tent, and the doctors and nurses, American, were operating. One of our guys lost an arm there through the fighting. And when I saw those girls in particular,
Mm-hmm.
I felt humbled. Really good. It was fantastic because the only protection was a tent.
Mm-hmm.
But it was okay. And where I was, about 20 Germans surrounded. They went to the front line, no one saw them.
Mm-hmm.
And finally they came to us and we arrested about 20 guys like that. It was quite a nice. The next day, start digging holes all over the place. We didn't do before,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And not far from us, there was a hill, good sized hill, maybe a couple of 100 feet tall. And on that hill was a machine gun, German machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
And the American tried to take the hill, they didn't do it. So they sent us there the next night. And I remember I was in a ditch, hiding in a ditch, but I was not in the front of the group. And one officer spoke German, one of our officers spoke German. And he heard someone coming on a road, a paved road. And the Germans were their boots, and every time they were on the stone, you could hear them coming in the dead of the night. And that officer captured an officer, German officer. So we decided to take some of us, which I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed in the ditch, and they followed the German because they had mines all over the place. And they were able to take the entire group of Germans there in the midst of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And in the morning, daylight, we start moving in now, and we were all set. The first thing I did, I went at the bottom of the hill on the other side, and they had a dorm there for the German. There was a lot of bunk beds all over the place, you know. And it was clear, you could see that. So I went inside of it, and there was a German, that German on the top of the bed, you know. So I was looking for something to bring with me. I went around the bed like that. On the other side of the bed, gee, the German skull was cut in half. And I couldn't take it. I went outside, I threw up outside. I didn't go back to get to start. Well, I was really shook up to see that. But after that, we started moving, and we moved. In 2 or 3 days, we were close to Crozon, that town here.
Mm-hmm.
And in Brest, there was an SS regiment of paratroopers.
Mm-hmm.
The general in charge of the paratroopers was General Domke. I remember the name of it. And he received the order from Hitler not to surrender. And it took 4 weeks to the American and the French to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And we had casualties, some casualties, but there was a way of life, you know, we chose to be like that.
Right.
And
Were you engaged in that fighting, or were you?
Oh yes, yes, oh yeah, yeah. And we came to the town of Crozon, and I had a book here. I was telling my son, I brought back a book about it, about the entire fighting, you know. And I don't know when I moved, what happened to that book. It was a big book with a lot of pictures, you know. So. But finally, they surrendered, and it was the end of Britain's war at the time.
Right.
And from there, I went back to my home in Languedoc, and as I told you, I found my an album of photos at that time. My bicycle, I didn't find it. You know, see. And from there, we went to Quimper. I don't know if you know the town. At Quimper, we joined the French army, and they sent us to a town by the name of Pontivy with a 15 Dragon. There we got a very intense training. We were really well trained at that time.
Okay.
And after that, I was responsible as a sergeant for distributing gasoline. It was a good job, and my company, my regiment went to Lorient, where they had about 40,000 German in the pocket. Another pocket was Saint-Nazaire. They had 40,000 there too. But we stayed at Lorient, and we kept the German from escaping at that time. And back to the headquarters, one day they asked for volunteers to make a commando. So I put my name there. And I put the name of my friend, Fernand, also. And big mistake, big mistake. What they had a no man's land there in Lorient, maybe 1 or 2 kilometers, 1 kilometer maybe wide. And we had to go at night, ambush the German, and take as many prisoners as we could for interrogation. I never caught a German at all. But it was scary.
How many of you went in this
We
group?
were 50
Okay.
in a commando. And Armistice Day, May the 8th, 1945. Well, the day before, they sent us there. I was mad like hell. But we went very close to the line, the German line. Some of us, I didn't, could hear the German talking, so close. And we spent the night there. And it came in the morning, you know, daylight. And our Lieutenant Peugeot, said, okay, we're going back to our lines, you know. And the Germans saw us. We were walking in a small farmer's road, unpaved, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet deep, not very wide, maybe 15 feet wide. And we were on our belly there, 50 of us. They sent maybe, I don't know, many shells, maybe 88 shells. All over us. I couldn't see from here to here. There was so much dust coming down. Over us. And believe me or not, one single shell fell on us. Not one. After they stop, and we crawl, we remove the dirt, we crawl on our belly as far as we could, and we went over the hill, and we started going up. You could hear the bugles sounding the end of the war. That close,
Right.
to give you an idea. The last day of the war.
Okay. So you basically spent your time in the French army during
Yes.
the war
Yeah, yeah.
outside of Lorient.
Yes.
So that was kind of, you were simply guarding
Yes,
the Germans.
yes.
Okay. Now,
After that, we went back to our headquarters in Pontivy,
mhm.
and we, for some reason, they sent us to the center of France, Argenton, that was
Mhm.
the name of the town. And the war was over
Right.
by then, you know. And I had a good life because being in charge of the gasoline,
Mhm.
we always make sure we had some left in a tank.
Right.
And for gasoline, jerry can of gas,
Mhm.
we stopped at an inn. We had beautiful dinner
Mhm.
every time we went like that. It was one of the best time of my life.
All right. Now this tape is about up, so we're going to pause right here. And I'm going to read. All right. So we've taken the main line of your story now through the end of the war in 1945. I'd like to ask a little bit more just about different aspects of life in France during that period of the occupation. And I guess the first question is, what kind of impressions did you have of the Germans? Did you?
Well, regular German were okay,
Mhm.
you know. But the Gestapo and the SS were bad, really bad. And especially the Gestapo.
Mhm.
And they killed a lot of people in France at that time. There's a town not far from my town. The name of the town is Carré. It's about 2 hours by bicycle,
Mhm.
you know. And they picked up 25 guys from the underground. And they were hanged in Main Street
Mhm.
for 1 month. No one could touch them. It was awful. The smell was awful.
Mhm.
Things like that were bad. You know, for each German killed, they would kill 50. And that's the truth.
Mhm.
In that farm, you know, I told you I was hiding in the
Mhm.
farm. After I left, 2 weeks after I left, there was a group of underground people. They were about 20, and they asked the farmer if they could sleep overnight in a barn. Farmer said, sure, why not? Among the group, they had a Frenchman, a trader.
Mhm.
Maybe I told you that, no?
Well, you told me about the trader the one who was from Alsace, who
Oh, no,
ratted on your
this
friend.
one was
This is
different, it was on
okay.
the farm.
Mhm.
And anyway, he went to fetch the German during the night. In the morning, truck of Germans surrounded the farm, you know. And the farmer, which was maybe 45 years old, something like that, and there was 2 other guys there, like me,
Mhm.
working, and they were taken prisoner, and they were killed.
Okay.
And only his wife and kids survived at that time.
But the resistance men had already left.
Pardon me?
The resistance fighters, they were already gone, or were they
No, they
captured
were
too?
there. They were taken.
They
There
were
were
captured
20
too.
guys,
Okay.
and they were shot.
Mhm.
They were not shot on the spot. They were shot someplace else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Things like that.
Yeah. Now, did you ever have any dealings with the Gestapo yourself? Did you ever? Have
No, I
any-
never did.
Okay.
When I left Laval to go back to Morlaix,
Mhm.
the French police came to my house looking for me
Mhm.
when I was gone in the farm at the time.
Okay.
So I was not, and I decided if I work directly to the German, I have a better chance, which I did.
Mhm.
I never was arrested after that. I was lucky.
All right.
Yeah.
And the the regular German soldiers.
They were okay. My boss in the garage there, at the base, we were friends.
Hmm.
He was a good man, you know.
Okay. So you were working for Germans on the base
Yes.
outside of Brest.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It was a
And
big base.
okay. And then what? How did most French people deal with the occupation? Did they just try to go about their lives, or?
99% vive de Gaulle
Hmm. Well, after the war.
after the war.
Yeah, but during the war.
Even during the war.
Okay.
Oh yes. Yeah, the French people were opposed to occupation.
Hmm.
That's for sure.
How many? So that you don't think you didn't notice that many collaborators?
There was a few,
Hmm.
and they were dealt after the war. One stupid thing they did, the French people, they cut the hair of the woman
Hmm.
to frighten her to give it to the German.
Yeah.
You know, that was a stupid thing.
Hmm.
I was not for that.
All right.
Anyway, that's just my story.
Okay.
And after that, the regiment, we went from Argenton-sur-Creuse to a town north of that, but in Loche.
Hmm.
And they asked me in September 1945 to take another year. I said, no,
Hmm.
I'm not. I'm going home, which I did. And the regiment went to Germany for occupation
Hmm.
for 3 months. And after that they went to Vietnam, to Indochina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So September 45, you're out of the army.
I was out of the army. I went back home.
Okay.
I went back to the base,
Hmm.
occupied by the French Navy at that time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, did you go back to work there, or what?
I went back to work on the lathe
Okay.
at that time. Yeah.
All right. And now, 6 years later, you'll go to the United States. But in between, what did you do between?
I worked for Citroën.
Okay. And when
I
did
was
you?
a young engineer at the time.
Okay. So when did you start working for them?
Just after that,
Okay.
uh,
So in 46 or
after
after you left the army?
after I left the army.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get a job with them?
Well, I just went to the office of the base,
Mm-hmm.
and I told them I worked there,
Mm-hmm.
and if I could work on the lathe, they said yes, you can. They were looking for someone,
Right.
and I worked there. As a matter of fact, the first Christmas I was there in 1945, 46. They were looking for someone to be Santa Claus. So why not? I put my name on the board there, you know. I was the only one, nobody else volunteered,
Mm-hmm.
back to volunteer. And they had an idea for me to take a plane and going at sea, and we would get a radio from the headquarters when all the kids were there and the families and everything to come back,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And there was a seaplane,
Mm-hmm.
British seaplane, big plane. They were pilot, radio, and I.
Mm-hmm.
So that day we had a very good lunch, very good lunch. A little bit too much to drink, and we flew. I never been in an airplane before, the first time. All dressed up as Santa Claus, and we took off from the bay,
Mm-hmm.
and we went at sea. And for maybe an hour we flew, and we received a message everything was okay to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So the pilots came back, and he wanted to show the kids a little bit of a strange thing, you know. So he went down on the ocean, and he went up like that, you know. when he went up, I saw the whole goddamn ground coming out, you know, and I couldn't take it anymore. I had to open the window, and I threw up everything. And finally, we landed. There was a ramp there, and I couldn't walk. I was really in bad shape. But finally, I made it. You know, finally. But all that stuff stuck to the fuselage. Everybody was laughing, not me. To give you an idea.
Well, how did you go from working for the French Navy to working for Citroën?
Well, I met my wife in Morlaix to a dance, and we worked together quite a bit of time. One thing I did, I brought from the war a motorcycle, Norton 500, and I'd find a sidecar to go with it. And my future wife and I, we went all over the place like that. It was a good time for me after the war. And we decided to get married, and I went to Paris. Her uncle and her aunt were living there at Kremlin-Bicêtre, Port d'Italie.
Yeah.
And so I went to work there, and I sold my motorcycle and my sidecar to pay a down payment on an apartment. And we were living close to the Hotel de Ville, if you know the place, the city hall.
Okay.
In Paris.
In Paris?
In Paris.
Okay.
Big city hall.
Yeah, that's a good real estate. Yeah.
I was in Paris, and from there I moved to Citroën on close to the Statue of Liberty there. You know.
Yeah, on the River Seine.
On the River Seine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On kind of the south, the west end.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, the tour boats go around it.
We were in Paris for 5 years, and at that time we didn't make much money, even as an engineer. So I decided to come here at that time.
All right. Now, did you have any friends or relatives?
No one,
Okay.
but my wife had some friends in New York,
Okay.
which sponsored me
All
to
right.
come to this country. That was good.
Okay.
I came in this country November the 1st, 1951.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, how long did it take for you to find a job?
One day.
Okay.
One day.
Now, did you speak any English yet?
No. No didn't speak English at all.
Okay. So what?
Just a few.
Okay. So what job did you get?
I went, I found a shop. The name was Speed Ring. And they were working at that time for Harley Carburetor. There was 8 guys working in a shop and 2 owners. And that's the only place I work in this country. For 68 years I worked in that, no, 60 on some years. And we grew from 10 to 3,000. We grew up.
Okay. And then, when did you come to Michigan?
That was November the 1st.
Oh, so you got the job.
In
You went.
Detroit.
Oh, you went. So your friends
I
were
went
in
to
New York.
Warren, to Sherwood.
Okay.
Sherwood here in Warren.
Okay. Because I guess your wife's friends were in New York.
In New York.
Yeah.
And what I did, when I came here alone, I sponsored my wife,
Right.
which we came through Canada, and she came here after that.
Right. Okay. But I guess, how did you get from New York to Michigan? Did you apply for the job while you were in New York?
I didn't go to New York.
Oh.
I went to Windsor.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And Windsor to Detroit.
All right. So you went straight there. So your sponsors were in New York, but you did not go that way.
Yes.
Okay. Now I get
And
it.
5 years after I was there to the day, I became a citizen. And I was clear for secret clearances 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, What kind of different work did you do for that company? Because you were maybe.
Well, work on the lathes for a year,
Mhm.
and I work in the. Created an engineering at that time. I was in the engineer,
Mhm.
and I stayed in engineering for quite some time, and I was part of the management after that,
Mhm.
for many years.
All right. Now, did your company work with NASA?
We worked for NASA.
What did you do with that, or what did your company
I
do?
was involved in making guidance for the Apollo program.
Okay.
And we work with a special metal by the name of beryllium,
Mm-hmm.
pure beryllium. Very expensive. The price of gold,
Mm-hmm.
a pound of beryllium versus the price of gold. There was no difference,
Mm-hmm.
to give you an idea. And still today, going out of space, that's the metal they use. That's a rare metal,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on the elements chart. Yeah.
Now, did you ever go to Cape Canaveral or any of those
I
places?
went to Florida quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Huntsville
Mm-hmm.
quite a few times. I saw Von Braun there,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a big plant in Cullman, Alabama. About 300-400 people there, you know, good size. And we had 3 plants in Cleveland. We had in Tennessee we had 1 plant, and in Orlando also we had 3 plants in Orlando. Yeah.
Now, is that company still in business, or
Oh
has
yes, yes.
it hasn't been bought by someone else?
It is. They're not speedwing anymore.
Okay.
I don't remember the name now.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of those companies got bought by bigger
Oh,
companies
yes, yes, yes.
and kept going.
But they are a big company. They are public now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you think back about that period of during the war, are there other memories that stand out for you that you haven't brought into the story yet?
Well, I had some rough time. I had some good time during that time.
What kind of good times did you have then?
Well, after the war, when the war was over, like I told you, our regiment, we had a lot, it was motorized.
Mm-hmm.
And every week we had 3 companies. We had to bring the gasoline
Mm-hmm.
every week. And we had a lot of light tanks, brain carrier, if you know the name of the brain
Yeah.
carrier, you know, from the British.
Mm-hmm.
They were full of sand, coming back from Libya. And one time we had to go to another railroad station to pick up we had 50 roughly,
Mm-hmm.
brain carrier, the small size and the bigger size.
Mm-hmm.
And the lieutenant put me the leader
Mm-hmm.
of that group to go back to Pontivy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a problem with the levers to stop the track, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized if I go faster than they told me to go to, it was easier to manage the driving.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I speed up the whole thing. But on the back of me was 50 of the Brent carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, one guy didn't make the turn and he went into the field. And all of a sudden, my lieutenant came in. He was mad like hell. He says, "What do you go so fast?" He says, "You got to slow down." So that's what I did. After that, we regrouped and we went back, not low speed, but maybe 20 miles an hour.
So you figured out how to control it a little bit
Oh
better?
yes, oh yes, yeah, yeah.
Right.
That was one of
Yeah.
the problems. Yeah.
Now, was all of your equipment British, or did you have American?
No, we had a lot of American. We had a lot of thing on trucks, trucks on trucks.
Yeah.
You know, what was the name?
Well, they're half tracks.
Half track,
Yeah.
half track. We had a lot of those, you know.
Okay. And were the
And,
tanks American or British?
The tanks were American.
Hmm.
We had a few Crusaders, British.
Yeah.
And when I went to school there, where you have the picture, we had a lot of Sherman.
Hmm.
The American made a big mistake because they used on a Sherman a 75 cannon,
Hmm.
which was completely wrong. Because we need 3 Sherman for 1 Tiger.
Hmm.
tank.
Well, yeah, officially at some point they decided 10 Shermans was a better number.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I
or
remember,
5 for
I
a
remember
tank.
3.
Yeah, but they were undergunned. They were
Yeah.
mechanically reliable, and you could do
Oh,
things
yes.
with them.
They were no good.
But they weren't good enough to match the
They were
German
no good.
tanks. Yeah,
They wouldn't stop a tank.
Yeah.
But they had a destroyer,
hmm
tank destroyer. They had a 90 millimeter gun
Mhm.
there. This one was good.
yeah,
They could stop it at a Tiger tank or Leopard.
yeah. And they made some versions of the Sherman that were better later,
Yes,
but the standard
they-
one, the one that you would have
yes.
seen, was not. Yeah.
They put a heavy cannon,
hmm
which was good. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I guess again, if you think about the time before the war ended, let's see, have you told me about all 10 of your close calls?
As far as I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The worst one was the Armistice Day.
Mm-hmm.
This one was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm surprised we didn't lose anyone. Yeah.
All right. Well, you were certainly a lucky man,
Lucky.
and you have a very interesting story.
Yeah,
So,
not lucky.
so I'd just like to thank you very much for taking the time to share the story today.
Okay.